Chris McDonald. Why do I know that name?
I think we're live already. We're live already. Yay.
Oh,
The show's working tonight. We're going to have a show.
we already got an ad, too. Oh, there was an ad pulling up the page. So we are live.
We're live.
But when they turn the sound on, they don't tell us.
Scott,
they turn
we
the
are
sound on.
early because we were expecting difficulties because of last week's debacle, but we are here tonight.
Yeah, we're gonna play it safe tonight. Go ahead and jump on and take off. But appreciate everybody joining us tonight. I know we're getting started a couple minutes early. It may be a few minutes before everybody loads up on here. But anyway, we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, I'm trying to go to the live chat. It says live chat has moved. Well, that's
I got it.
I'm getting ready to reload it, and there's the chat. All right, so why do I know that name, Chris? Why do I know the Chris McDonald name? Now, one of my best friends in high school was named Crisp McDonald.
Crisp with a P?
Yeah, with a P.
Crisp.
Like crispy without the Y.
Or Chris with a P.
Well, no H in it. It was CRISP.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
All right, I think it's been, gosh,
It's been a while since we've had a show.
we've had a lot of tournaments.
We've had a lot of
tournaments.
tournaments. Yeah, I think you've had, what, maybe 3 up north tournaments? At least one BPT event and 3 Elite Series events.
We had an event. We talked about St. Clair.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about your
Saginaw Bay. Yep.
And then we had Champlain and St. Lawrence to finish the year back to back.
Right.
So I'll give a quick, yeah, we're feeling okay, Scott. Yes, we are early tonight. I'll give a quick recap of Champlain and St. Lawrence. If anybody missed it, it was basically the same tournament back to back. I don't know how else to put it. It was 100 guys looking at their forward-facing sonar units and casting at open water fish that were cruising around Lake Ontario or Lake Champlain. Have your pick. Now, there were some river fish that played a little bit. There were some shallow fish that played a little bit.
Did anybody make the top 10 in either event, like just fishing?
Nope.
Okay,
Nope.
there we go.
Nope. Well, I love it how you said that too. You're like, just fishing.
Yeah, I mean, not just looking at live sonar.
Because that leads us in. That leads us into a little bit of what we're going to talk about tonight. But on top of that, I had a top 50 finish in
The
Champlain.
mic's right in the way of the camera. I don't know what to do with it.
No,
There
I
we
can
go.
see. I can see you fine.
Okay, perfect.
I had a top 50 finish at Champlain, and I actually tried to mix it up a little bit, largemouth and smallmouth, because
Champlain.
historically, that's usually what wins there.
Right.
Now the issue, and this is what when you said that, it just kind of like brought a lot of thoughts out of my mind because I mean, when you said did anybody do good just fishing, and I'm like, no, because if you weren't,
there were a lot of checks made just fishing, but like far as top 10s go.
Well, I don't really know how many checks there were made just fishing. Probably just
you
a hand.
did, didn't you?
Where?
Champlain.
No, I was on my. Well, okay.
Okay, I
Let me
got Champlain and St. Lawrence mixed up.
Let me rephrase that.
Okay, gotcha.
So, 85% of the tournament at Champlain, I was on my active target too.
Right.
The other 15%, I was actually flipping reeds and docks and fishing for largemouth. Now, I did weigh in 1 largemouth each day, but I also finished 48th in the tournament or whatever.
At Champlain.
Yeah.
So you got a check.
Well, yeah, but
That's what I was getting
Okay,
at. Like,
yeah.
I thought you got a check.
I'm like the only one that no, Canterbury did really good. Canterbury actually probably won the largemouth tournament because the last day he had 19 something, all
Yeah,
largemouth.
right.
And it was funny because everybody on Scott's YouTube channel was like, oh, thank goodness we get some relief. We get to see Canterbury swing on some largemouth and some shallow cover, and he's powered. They were like excited about it, and which I don't blame them, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about, the engagement that forward-facing sonar, the challenges that has when it comes to live coverage and things like that. So flipping over to St. Lawrence, everybody that I know that did really well. So the first day I actually fished shallow in the river, and I caught 16 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, it was a terrible day, a nightmarish day. 16, as good as it sounds, is absolutely horrible. I was in like 88th place.
Yeah,
over
that's
100 bucks.
terrible there.
I knew I needed to catch over 20 the second day just to get back inside the classic cut.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to the lake. I don't care. I'm
Just
sending
gonna
it.
go.
I'm going. And ran all the way out, 30 miles out in the lake, and caught 21 something.
Yeah, had a good day.
Saved the tournament. I mean, I only moved up like 11 spots,
But that was enough.
but it was enough to make
Yeah.
the classic. So we did qualify for the Bassmaster Classic. And,
That is good.
And it is on a lake It is on Grand Lake, and I have fished Grand 3 or 4 or 5 times, maybe once with FLW, 3 times in Toyota Series events.
Right.
And I got a bone to pick with that lake because I actually have a second, a third, and a fourth.
I was going to say when sight fishing's going down on Grand, that's when you used to,
we're not. One of those was 100% sight fishing.
Right.
One was like the tail end of the spawn, and one was 100% pre-spawn. So we're going to be there at the end of March. I don't think there'll be a full-blown spawn going. It's grand.
No,
it could be snowing at the end of March.
Right,
so it's probably going to be pretty much a pre-spawn deal. But it reminds me of a lot of the Ozark lakes. It's just a fun lake to fish. You know, I'm sitting here
full of fish, full of good fish.
Yes, a lot of 3 to 4 pounders.
Right, it's a very healthy lake, and those fish are just built different. They remind me of our high rock fish,
or like northern smallmouth.
They're like short
round.
and fat and
That's
healthy,
right.
and just they eat everything in sight.
They're deceivingly heavy when you weigh them. You know, when we go there, that lake. The problem is I'm already thinking in my mind, like I know kind of what generally goes on in that area of the country that time of year. You do too.
Yeah.
But I'm already thinking in my mind that I'm going to have to spend a whole day or two of looking for a suspended fish bite with my forward-facing sonar because
100%.
If I don't, that's very likely how it could be won.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, there's been a huge debate going. Back up to St. Lawrence. By the way, congratulations to Kyle Welcher on the AOY title.
Yes.
We haven't been live to tell him that. You know that is such a testimony to how much of a roller coaster of a sport we play in. Canterbury, perfect example, wins AOY in 2019.
Yeah.
Makes the Classic the next year and then misses the Classic altogether.
Right.
Clark Wendell wins AOY. Next year misses the Classic.
Yeah.
Kyle Welcher did not make the Classic last year. Wins AOY this year. I don't know if that's just the balanced talent that there is out there now, or if it's just how much momentum plays in our sport.
Momentum plays a lot in this sport. And when you can get it rolling, it's not hard to keep it rolling. It just seems like you make good decisions.
Yeah, you fish with confidence.
Yeah.
Then
when it starts going bad, it just snowballs and goes to the rock bottom.
Right, right. Drunkwood said Cobb didn't have forward-facing sonar until the northern swing. That is not an accurate statement. He had an active target 2 on his boat all year. Now, how much he utilized it, I cannot prove.
Yeah, because I remember seeing him at Murray this year.
Yep.
Catching him like he was talking about seeing him on it.
Yeah, he used it at Murray.
I'm pretty sure everybody that fishes at a professional level has probably got some forward-facing sonar on their boat.
The only person I know for a fact that does not have that transducer mounted on the front of his boat is Don Cox.
Yeah.
That's the only one.
And he did really good at St. Lawrence.
He did, and he actually fished shallow. I actually saw him multiple times the first day, and he was fishing shallow exclusively in the river and weighed in a 23-something pound bag. But you know, as good as that bag was, he wasn't even in the top 10. No, he wasn't in the top 10. He was like 12th place.
Yeah, that's true.
Because Scott Martin, my roommate, had 24-something the first day. He was in like 11th. When that lake is on, and you can navigate it safely because there were like 8-footers the first day. That's one thing that tripped me out. We were at Champlain and they canceled one of our days due to the wind, and it was pretty bad that morning, but it got nice throughout the day. And of course, you can never make fishermen happy, right? So some of the guys were complaining.
Whatever you doing fishing, half the people's going to be happy and half
that's right. That's right. And then at St. Lawrence, it was blowing like 25 on Ontario at 5 a.m. Yeah. And they're like, send it, boys.
Get on out there. Go tear some stuff up.
Yeah, and there was Scott Martin went out the first day on the lake.
Yeah.
And he navigated through that stuff. And, he said there was legit 6-7 footers out there.
Oh, I bet
it was ginormous.
But they were probably a couple seconds apart, like ocean or...
I don't know. I didn't go.
I wouldn't have went either. I do not like rough water.
There was a couple guys that went. Literally only a handful that went the first day. There's some that fished around the mouth of the river. And they were like... Oh, Robertson went out there, I think. And he was like, I literally thought I was going to die. Of course, it's Robertson, I don't know. He's probably letting it eat in 6 foot.
He seems like the kind of guy that's probably had several brushes with death, so he probably wasn't that scared.
Probably not. Who? Yes, but so where he was fishing was semi-protected. He was running up the Canadian shore and going way out in the lake, fishing a bay on the Canadian side. And I think he was able to get, I don't know how bad it was on the first day for him. But I know the rest of the tournament, it wasn't bad. It wasn't too bad,
Yeah.
except when he broke down the last day. That was pretty rough on somebody that's leading AOY. But I think he'd already had it locked up.
Yeah, I think he did too.
That's comforting. You know, if you're an AOY leader and you have mechanical problems, that would have happened on the first day of the tournament. That could have really changed the way it played out.
Oh yeah, big time.
It could get in your mind. And anyway, so all right, real quick, y'all know this show is presented by Anglers Choice Marine, obviously, and 3 locations. Right now, they've got another promotion going on. It's a $2,000 Bass Pro gift card, okay, with the purchase of any of the 2023 models, whether it's a Triton, Ranger, or Nitro that they still have in stock. So you get a $2,000, and I think there's some other kickbacks. Don't hold me to that, but I know you get a $2,000 Bass Pro gift card with the purchase.
Ooh.
Oh, and a free boat cover.
That's a pretty good deal.
And those boat covers are, I think,
You buy a boat and you can stock it with tackle.
correct. $2,000, yeah, that gets
That's
you
a lot
good,
of tackle.
That gets you a good start.
That gets you a good start. Yes, sir.
So tonight's giveaway is going to be sponsored by a mutual sponsor, Brian and I's, Bait Fuel. We're going to give away a bait fuel, all kinds of bait fuel goodies, some bait fuel itself.
Yeah, hat, shirt, bait fuel. Nice little package put together from American Bait Works.
So, trivia question at the end of the show. Y'all be sure to stay on until then.
Do we have a trivia question?
I already got one.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know
got
you
one.
didn't ask me, so I assumed you had one.
Well, we started the show early, but we were running late getting to the studio, if that makes any sense.
Gotcha. That's understandable.
So I thought of one when I was on the way here. But yeah, so let's jump back into what you know, the comment you made earlier is like, did anybody make checks just fishing? And obviously, if anybody's been on social media the past couple weeks since our Northern Swing mainly, it's been exploding with debates on forward-facing sonar.
Right.
I actually received a call from Chris Bowes, tournament director. You know about this. A lot of the general public probably doesn't. But Chris Bowes reached out to me and a lot of the other elites, probably all of them, if I had to guess. I don't know if we're going to be getting a survey soon, but they reached out and wanted to know our opinion on it, where we stood on it. Basically the 3 options that they're looking at are, they're not even looking at the options yet. They're just getting feedback right now. So eliminating it altogether, limiting it, which is what Brian and I have talked about multiple times on this show.
Yeah.
Or not doing anything. And
So what did you go with?
I went with limiting it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I do think that we have to. You cannot just ban it.
You can't punish
ban it completely.
technological advancement.
Yes.
You can't punish
and
that.
anybody that has any common sense knows that Lowrance, Humminbird, Garmin, they pay a lot of the bills in this industry, whether it's the actual tournament organization sponsorships, Brian's sponsorship, my sponsorship,
Right.
whoever it may be. They spend a lot of money in the industry. They have engineers that's their job to come up with new technology, better, more efficient ways to find and catch fish. All right. That being said, I don't think a guy needs 14 transducers on his trolling motor, or 6 graphs up front, and 4 in his floor, and things like that. I'm exaggerating a little bit.
But not really, though.
Well,
not really.
So here's the tough part of this whole situation. They talk about losing engagement and losing fans and losing the people that support our industry. That's what people are using as their...
Yeah, because if you watch any of the live coverage of somebody strictly using forward-facing sonar,
Correct.
You're just looking at the back of their head while they stare down.
Correct.
And so you kind of need some charismatic individuals on live in a forward-facing sonar event.
Yep. So my conversation with Chris kind of went like this. It went to saying you can't just eliminate it altogether. I think that's a bad business decision. I think it's a bad industry decision. I think it's a bad decision for all the anglers and the entire fishing world as a whole. Now, it starts, though, with scheduling. All right? That's where part of this. If you put 3 if you put 3 smallmouth tournaments in August up north, that's just the way it's going to be.
Yes,
period.
I agree with that.
All right, so what I'm saying is, if we go up north, let's go in June. Let's go. Well, then you got the flogger situation. So anyway, can't ever make anybody happy.
No, I mean
but
it's always going to play. It doesn't matter where you're at.
Well,
I mean, there's going to be a chance. I mean, you look at this year with the Okeechobee event, the Seminole event.
I agree with that.
I mean, I think any body of water in the country, it's got a chance to play any time.
I agree with that. Here's the difference. Here's my argument to that. So We haven't been in an argument in a while, so we need to argue about something.
All right. All right.
So when you
want
go
me
to a
good guy
small,
or
when you go to a small, do what?
You want me the good guy and I'll be the bad guy?
Yeah, well, it don't matter.
All right.
When you go to a smallmouth event up north, like St. Clair, for instance, our Champlain tournament, or the Lake Ontario,
Right.
All top 10 in every event doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. When you go to Okeechobee, which to your point was one on forward-facing sonar.
Yeah, but you had other guys.
You had 8 guys in the top 10 that were doing something different.
Right.
So when you're watching live coverage on Fox Sports or CBS or whatever it may be, and you got 8 guys or 9 guys or 10 guys doing 7 different things, that's what's more engaging. That's what's more educational. That's what sells more product.
Right.
All right, if Bryan Thrift and I are both drop shotting this little flatworm on our forward-facing sonar, that sells 2 things, our forward-facing sonar and a flatworm.
Right.
All right, if he's flipping a 1.5 ounce weight in a reed head, and I'm throwing a jerkbait out here in a ditch, and this guy's throwing a chatterbait and offshore hydrilla, you know, we're like it's all selling.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
So,
yeah, I agree.
so-
And so I compare the whole debate about wanting to ban the forward-facing sonar to the Alabama rig, because I think they're trying to go down the same path they did with the Alabama
the
rig.
conservation aspect of it.
Not even that.
Okay.
I think it's the fishermen are afraid of change. We all know I'm afraid of change. But if you look at what they did to the Alabama rig, when it first came out, everybody was catching fish, having fun. Everybody was convinced every tournament from henceforth is going to be won on an Alabama rig. So they jumped on the bandwagon immediately and banned it within the first year of it being released at the professional level. And now if you take notice, if you fish any locally or whatever, you don't ever really see anything about an Alabama rig dominating. And when you do, it's very situational.
Yeah.
So it's not the end-all, be-all bass fishing. And I think that's the same thing we're going to see with the forward-facing sonar as time goes on. You know, fish are going to adapt. They're going to change. They're not going to sit there and just keep getting their teeth kicked in the same locations doing the same thing. Like, they're going to move around, and they're going to adapt to get away from that pressure, just because that's the way the good Lord designed things in nature to work. And I think over the course of a couple of years, we'll see that if we let the forward-facing sonar thing play out and just let it go its course. But now, as far as limiting certain things, I'm all aboard for that. Like, I do agree. I know we've brung up on the show before that, you know, I don't think you can't flat out ban it. Like,
No.
That's the absolutely wrong direction to take, because it is a tool. It's no different than back in the late 80s, early 90s when Denny Brower was kicking everybody's tail flipping a jig. I mean, he was the best there was at it. And that's the way we are now. And we've got guys they're the best in the world at the forward-facing sonar. And when they go to an event where that's the dominant pattern, they're going to do well. And
Yep.
it's just like any other bait or any other technique when you're in that situation for it. And right now, I think forward-facing sonar is so new that it's still applicable in any situation. And guys are taking advantage of that, and it's working out really good for them. But I think the easiest thing to do, and I know Matt and I have talked about it on the show before, is limiting the inches of screen a professional angler is allowed to have on their boat. Like, just whatever it may be, if they decide 48 inches, 52 inches, whatever, just to limit the number of screen inches you can have to utilize for each technique split between the bow and the console, or something like that. Or maybe I don't even know if you can limit the number of transducers, because that's,
I think, and a couple of people had some good comments on here. J-Man, Jeremy had a good comment on here. You know, obviously Jeremy earlier said quit complaining about forward-facing sonar and worry about payouts. But I mean, look, we complain about payouts every year, and it seems to fall on deaf ears. So you know, I have lots of problems with our payouts. I have lots of problems with my return on my investment based on what I got 20 years ago in the industry. But you know, it is what it is. We don't have as much power on something like that as we did, you know, working together with these organizations to change the way or the equipment that we are allowed to use and things like that. So that's a good point too. You know, J-Man said that the money behind the A-rig is not, you know, comparable to the money that's behind the whole FFS industry,
true.
which is 100% accurate.
Yeah,
and
that is very
It's a lot
true.
easier to ban something from a company that's not paying your bills
yeah, exactly.
than it is to not.
But that looks bad.
Yeah, it does. Jeremy, that's actually was my kind of advice to Chris. I said, you know, limiting to one live sonar transducer on the trolling motor, I think that's a good start, as opposed to letting people run 2 and 3. Because and then they Jeremy also made a comment about they need to get Lowrance and Garmin to make a deal with them to get the forward-facing sonar on the screen. With whoever is fishing at the time. Bass obviously has done that with a little bit with Humminbird.
Right.
But because Humminbird is such a big sponsor, they don't do it necessarily with the Garmin and Lowrance people.
Yeah.
I think that has definitely been on the table. I think they're looking at that really hard to try to make it a little bit more engaging. And here's the thing, this is an interesting topic. I think I talked to you about this the other day on the phone. I can't remember if we discussed this or not, but Chris Bowes actually, maybe it was Chris or maybe it was somebody else I was talking to, and he said, you got these Patrick Walters, you got these Justin Hamners, these young kids coming into the elites now, and they're super, they're unbelievable with their electronics. The Japanese anglers with their forward-facing sonar in particular, right?
Like they're masters of it.
Masters of it, yes. So, as a 42-year-old, 16-year veteran of the industry, what got me to where I am, what got Brian to where he is that has nothing to do with forward-facing sonar technology. It's starting to play for us, obviously, when we have to use it.
Like I love it. Like I like it. I don't enjoy it as much as I do fishing an isolated target because that's what I like to do personally.
Yeah. But so I was asked the question, what makes those guys so good at it? And I said, here's my only theory about that. Now, I've tried to embrace it. There's some of the older fishermen in our industry that are really, really putting their foot down because they don't want to embrace it or they don't like it. And I just don't grasp that concept. If you're going to survive, you better embrace it.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. You better learn it. You better adapt to it. Because it's going to be part of the tour moving forward, I have no doubt. I just think, there may be some limitations.
Right.
What makes a Patrick Walters, what makes a Koya Fujita, what makes a Taku so good at it is those guys are, 15 years younger than us, if not more, maybe 20.
Yeah.
And when they came into the industry, it was already there. So their way of practicing and preparing for a tournament, it's what they learned for. So they go to a Bassmaster Elite tournament, 3-day practice, and my entire career I'll go to a 3-day practice for an elite tournament. I'll look for a shallow deal, I'll look for a river bite, I'll look for a bite at the dam, I'll look for something deep, I'll look for something in between, I might look for docks, might look for rock piles, might look for this, might look for that, brush pile, whatever. Those guys and I do something different every day. Those guys look for one type of bite all day, every day.
Yeah, because they know it's a winning bite.
Correct.
And so I reference it to the way I like to fish. Because when Humminbird came out with side imaging in 2006, I got it in 2008 on my boat, and that was the first time I'd ever had side imaging. It was still very underutilized in the industry. But I don't know if I was the first, but I think I kind of pioneered the offshore running gun, isolated target fishing type pattern, and I had a really good 10 to 12-year run doing that before everybody kind of caught on and started kind of looking for that stuff too. So I think it's what you learn, and when you find your niche and figure out how to practice for a multi-day event with a high number of boats, that's what allows you to stand out from your competitors, I feel like.
Yeah, and so I'm trying, like what I just said, I don't want anybody to misinterpret that as an excuse. It's my fault that I'm not more focused on that bite.
Right.
On the fisheries that I go to. And the reason is because my entire career for 16 years has not had to be like that.
Right.
But now it is becoming.
Yeah, you're going to have to adapt.
I have to adapt.
Right.
And I have to spend more of my practice time concentrating on that type of deal because almost every tournament on the elites, minus the Sabine River, was won that way this year. So if I want to be a top 10 regular, if I want to be a guy that has a chance to win, unless we go to all title fisheries next year or something like that, that might change things. But can you still cash checks and do well without it? Of course. John Cox is but everybody always says, well, John Cox does it. I'm like, okay, there's literally one John Cox in the United States.
I don't think there's anybody else could do like John does.
But Poche doesn't have near the credentials that John Cox does. Cox spends his whole time shallow everywhere he goes, and it works for him. But
yeah, he makes it work.
I don't know anybody else in the country that can do what he does.
I don't know anybody that's ever halfway got close to doing what he does.
That's true.
Up shallow
That's true.
like that.
Not with any
Because he doesn't have a hiccup very often.
Correct.
Like if you look at most of your guys that are, for lack of a better word, hard-headed, and I'm going to fish shallow all year everywhere, they're going to have 3 or 4 pretty major hiccups along the year somewhere. And John doesn't have, like a hiccup for John's like a 40-second.
Yeah, that's like barely squeaking in. Okay, sorry, Fred. Everybody knows the John Cox that I'm referencing. No offense to the other one, but I'm pretty sure everybody knows the one I'm talking about. All right, let's see. How much better can? That's a good question, Ryan. How much better can live scope get than what it already is? You know, for the entire time I've been fishing, my entire life, I've asked that question about everything I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how much better can it get? How much better can it get?
I think it can get as good as what they can get people to buy.
Oh yeah.
I think it can get as good as wherever they can get to price point where people stop buying it. That's as good as it can get.
Yeah, and I do think, you know, one of the next things we'll see. Now, this may require running multiple transducers. I'm not an engineer, so I have no idea. But I think that we'll have, you know, active target, live scope, whatever, that shoots 360 degrees all the time.
Yeah.
Multi-directional.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think the clarity, I think the distance it shoots, all that will continue to improve. I think even the actual fish, you know, will continue to improve. The clarity, the target separation, the clarity. You know, I've gotten to the point now, and I'm not an expert with it, but I've gotten to the point now where I'm 99% sure I know what I'm looking at now, as opposed to bass or crappie or white bass or hybrids or stripers.
I'm starting to get there.
You know, I mean, you go up north and you see these pods of carp out there. Champlain has those little sunfish. And now they'll trick you. Those little round fat sunfish that run around in big schools out there.
They'll look fuzzy.
Yeah. But if you spend enough, and I'm not saying you have to spend like 30 hours a week doing it, but if you spend a few hours every time you go out on the lake doing it,
you'll start picking up things.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. And there's still, it's not just like everybody's like, it's, you know, they're live scoping or they're using active target or whatever. Like, it's not a cure all. Like, it's tough to catch them suckers sometimes, and you got to be really good with it. I mean, otherwise these guys wouldn't continually separate. Like on the BPT, you got Wheeler and Connell. Are they arguably
Michael Neal? I mean, Dakota Eber,
the best on with forward-facing sonar. Yeah,
as good as it gets.
Yeah, and we have a group of Japanese guys that are Koya and Taku in particular.
I mean, if you go back and look, just like what Dakota did with the forward-facing sonar at Heavy Hitters this year at Caney Lake. I mean, we were in the MLF boats, and they've got like a little 5 or 7 inch screen, and he's catching 9-pounders off of it on live, and I'm looking at mine like, I have no idea what anything is. Like, the screens, I don't know if I'm old and need glasses, but I couldn't see nothing on it.
Ryan, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I don't think we can sit here and debate on how good is it really going to get, because none of us know.
Money's the only option. Like, well, I'm going to touch on what Fred Ashcraft said about the saltwater. So there's the Omni sonar in saltwater. It's like $150,000, but they can lock on a blue marlin 1,500 feet away and follow it around and get it to come up on a bait. Like, maybe that's the solution for
having a different division.
Having it so saltwater. I just kind of got into the marlin
when
fishing.
When
you
said that thought hit me.
A little dabbling in the marlin world of tournament fishing, and so a lot of the marlin tournaments, they'll have a sonar division for boats with the Omni sonar if they want to get in it, and then they have a non-sonar division. So maybe that's the way around it.
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of 2 separate pots.
Well, that kind of leads into, at the pro level, everybody's obviously going to have it.
I think you'd have to declare it the first of the year,
or
like
you have
before the first event.
Or you have an event or two that you just don't allow it.
You could do that.
Well, the reason I say you can't divide the tour, because there'd be 30 veterans fishing by themselves, and there'd be 70 young guys.
It would be interesting. I mean, put 5 cameras in the sonar group, 5 cameras in the non-sonar group, and see which one most people watch, and that's where the sponsor dollars are going to flow to.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the solution. We just solved it right there.
I can't argue with that.
So so like if we took
what would
the
you
BBT,
pick, live sonar or all the other sonar, or all the other technology that you have?
I would probably go in the non-live sonar category.
So yeah, okay.
Just because that's what I enjoy more. Like I would rather.
So are they going to have different schedules?
So no, same schedule,
same
body
same
of water.
schedule.
Yeah, it goes on at the same time.
Just okay, so it's just different.
Yeah,
you're just fishing
like
against East 50, and you're fishing against East 50, or however.
Right.
Interesting.
And you'd have to declare it like at the first of the year before the first event. You'd have to say, all right, I'm going to be in the live sonar category this year.
Interesting.
And then at the end of the year, you'd have enough data compiled to see who got the most views. Like if you split the cameras equally among the 5 guys in non-sonar versus 5 guys in the sonar group, you'd have enough data say, hey, you know, there were 10 million more views on guys that fished the non-sonar division. So next year we're going to have to do something different.
Yeah. Thrift just solved it. We're good.
I solved it. That's what
We're
I
all
do.
good.
I'm a problem solver. Somebody tell my wife that.
All right, real quick, a couple good comments on here. Mike Harris wanted to know if Scott Martin, he's talking about, had a saltwater forward-facing sonar transducer for St. Lawrence. He did. He had one at Champlain and St. Lawrence and St. Clair, if I'm not mistaken. So he had one that his sponsor Garmin makes that shoots like 250 feet. Problem is, obviously, he couldn't cast 250 feet, but it did give him a little bit of advantage because when you're out there in open water, he could pick up the fish pretty easily.
Oh, yeah.
Twice as far as I could, basically, with that saltwater version. And he still had his other one mounted. This is where the 2 transducers, this is why I don't like
so
it.
he could see them a long ways and then troll to them.
Correct.
And get them on the other one.
Then he could track them down, get them on the other one, cast them, and catch them. So that's one of the that's where I think it gets. More kudos to my roommate for trying to build a little bit of advantage. It's perfectly legal. Didn't do anything against the rules. More power to Scott for figuring that out. But that's where I think there probably needs to be some limitations. That's what guys will be doing. They'll be running these saltwater versions, and we'll be able to see 500 feet and things like that eventually. So, now, Mr. Jones on here had a pretty cool little comment. When you go to Champlain, make it a largemouth only tournament.
No, that would be fun.
The only problem with that is it going to fish really, really small. I think.
I mean, it's a chance of it, but it would be fun.
It would be fun. It would be fun. But you could do that. I mean, you could do that on several other
a lot of
fisheries.
fisheries,
Yeah,
yeah.
like St. Lawrence, you can catch a lot of largemouth all up and down that river and every little bay you go into.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. Of course, you talk about some complaining now. You couldn't weigh in a smallmouth at St. Lawrence. Yeah, there'd be some complaining. Or you could go to like Oneida and say largemouth only, or something, something like that.
It'd have to be a northern fishery.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, though. I hadn't thought about that yet, but that's a pretty good idea. Unfortunately, Fred, that's correct. Money moves the industry, and it always has, and it always will. That's just the way it is. Let's see. Yeah, Juice Newton said, I think most fans follow specific anglers, not necessarily their style. I think it's a combination of both.
I agree with that.
But
there's a lot of that.
People do get connected to personalities and things like that. I think, you look at, Matt Robertson.
Or somebody like Robinson, Swindle, Iaconelli.
Correct. That was
guys that are, they're fun to watch. They're entertaining. I know I get boring out there because I don't talk as much, but
let's see.
different
RWC,
personalities.
That subject's come up, I think, over the past couple of years about bass going back out west, whether it's the Delta, Clear Lake, Columbia River, wherever it may be. I'm not opposed to it. It's you're talking a couple $1,000s extra in expenses for the majority of the field. We have a handful of West Coast guys, but literally like a tiny, tiny, tiny handful. Most of those guys have now transplanted to the east side of the U.S. just to pursue fishing at a more comfortable pace and be able to be closer to everything. So
meanwhile, our league next year, most of our events are the extreme opposite. But pretty much, I think all of our events, but 2 are like within 100 miles of the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure like half of our schedule next year connects to the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay. Interesting. So you're not excited because it's rivers.
I don't like rivers.
It's got to be a lot of rivers.
Like rivers. We got 3 rivers, and I don't care for rivers.
Oh, y'all go to somewhere like the
Yeah,
Chowan
we're
River?
going to Chowan, James River.
I think
and
that place
St.
has
Lawrence.
really big bass in it, though.
I've heard it's been good.
Yeah, I think the Chowan's got
I've got
giant
some
bass in
buddies
it.
that fish it, and they've been, 2 years ago, they were telling me, man, you need to come down here and fish with me. Of course, I never did, and now it's on the schedule. So there
Jeff
we go.
Taylor called it the I-95 tour.
That's what it is. That's a good call.
So if
That
you
is
live
a
anywhere
good
close
call.
to 95, you'll be in good shape.
Here's a good debate right here, Matt, from Mike Corbishley. Does side scan or 360 fall in non-sonar category? Like, where do you draw the line? I think you have to draw the line with live sonar. So if you
Yeah.
look at side scan or down imaging or 360, it's not live. You can't track an individual fish and repetitively throw at it and get that real-time feedback where you can see what the fish is doing with the bait and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the whole debate and the entire, the whole reason this whole deal started was all about the live. All about the live,
Yeah, just that live, real-time
seeing the
stuff.
bait, seeing the fish move, being able to chase the fish down, literally. Like most of the fish that were caught up north were actually chased down, literally chased down. So I think that's you know, that's the dividing, that's the factor, that's the main factor.
I think that's where you have to draw the line at that live sonar.
Yep. You know, when you see a big school on side scan or a stump on 360 or whatever,
Right.
maybe
You're
see
not
a fish
sitting there
on it.
looking at them.
Yeah, you're not watching them move because, I mean, how often does I mean, Brian and I used to throw at brush piles on Moss Lake, and we'd throw back to back to try to double up because we knew what was going to happen afterwards. But that's only because we saw them shoot under our boat on our 2D sonar when we pulled a whole school of spotted bass off of a brush pile. But with live, I can tell you how many sitting there.
And
I can
where they
throw at
move
it,
to,
and I
like,
can know
they're over here now.
them son of a guns go out here in the middle, and this is what would happen back in the day. We obviously couldn't find them or catch them.
Right.
But we'd pull 10 spots off of a brush pile. We'd make double up if we're lucky. If not, one of us would catch one.
Yeah.
And then the suckers would go by the boat, under the boat, and out here in the channel. They wouldn't come back to the brush pile. They're not like crappies or anything. And then now I can spin the boat around, and I can chase them down and catch
there they
another
go
one.
over there.
And I can catch another one.
Got
and
him.
then I can catch another one. Now, it's not as easy as it sounds, but
No.
But point being is, like, they reacted like that in the past. You know, we catch one, they disperse. Part of the challenge was having to formulate a game plan to, do I stay, do I go,
Right.
do I make more casts?
Getting the right
And
rotation.
that's where, like, again, like, I'm not saying eliminate forward-facing sonar, but that's where it is taking a lot of the instincts and the decision-making and the techniques and the, you know, things like that out of the equation, because when I can see them and I can chase them and keep chasing them and keep chasing them, and they can't hide basically anymore because I can see them in real time, then that's, you know, it just doesn't give them a chance to rest, unfortunately. So,
Right. And I think the only way we'll really see anything go down as far as banning or something, like, the only way they could do it is limit it. But if states started seeing a decline in fish populations, but there's not that many meat eaters out there fishing for bass and things like that anymore, but you could see it with crappie or something. Like, I could see states coming in and maybe lowering the size limits. Like, I mean, it could get to where there's so many people, and, you know, us as fishermen, everybody has gotten so much more efficient that, you know, we could decimate the population in a body of water, and, you know, you could see the size limit on largemouth bass or something in a lake go from 5 to 3 a day or 2 a day, and then that would, you know, pretty much kill tournament fishing, because then it turns into a luck event when you get much lower than a 5-fish limit style. So if something like that were to take place, I could see them maybe trying to limit it pretty bad. But.
Yeah, and gosh, that's a term that I hate to use in our sport, and I've always hated to use it because a lot of people that don't understand our sport will say, isn't it just luck, you know? And I'm like, well, here's the thing, like, forward-facing
Well, there's
sonar.
definitely a portion of luck.
Well, forward-facing sonar brings even more of that into the equation. And here's my point. Like, you and I can be fishing with Tyler and 4 or 5 other guys in a big bay on St. Clair, and for smallmouth, you know, that are relatively stupid if they hadn't been caught 17 times. And you're catching 4 1/4s and I'm catching 4s. You know, like, and we're all, you know, we're zooming around in the same area. And because this happened, like in our last 3 tournaments, like this happened, like guys were piled in certain areas, and he caught 21.6 and I caught 20 pounds 10 ounces. You know, it's not like we were on different fish in different areas. You just got a couple better than average bites than I did. So, it's just different. Like, I can't. It's harder to separate yourself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you could run over to that dock and skip a jig under it, catch a 5-pounder, and then go over here and throw a chatterbait in the grass and catch a 3-pounder, and then go out here in the middle and throw in a brush pile and catch a 6-pounder. You know, like those days are like dwindling fast because of the style that we have to adapt to now. I don't know. It's just. It's a tough deal. Like, I don't know how else to put it. It's a tough deal.
I mean, I pretty much think you got to let it run its course. You just got to let it go. Fish are going to change.
I agree. I mean, it's going to.
Fish are going to change over time. They're not going to sit there and keep, getting their teeth kicked in.
So what's your prediction on how these fish are going to react over, let's say, the next 5 years?
I mean, I just think they'll change their habits. Like it's
They have to go where the bait goes, though. Like, that's a fact.
Oh, I agree. But, I mean, they could totally change bait sources. They may go from a predominantly bait fish to crawfish or something like that. I mean, or bluegill or something. They could, or what you will see is the fish that are using structure that doesn't get fished with forward-facing sonar, like grass and stuff like that. You could see that population of fish becoming more easily catchable versus the open water fish that are constantly getting pressure.
Okay, now I agree with
You
that.
see where I'm going? You know where I'm going with it.
I agree with that. I don't think, like, let's just take Champlain, for instance.
Right.
So you had all these giant smallmouth that were out there over 30 to 60 foot of water on alewives, okay?
Yeah.
Roaming around on alewives in the endless sea and just crazy. And you had to, I think those fish will still do what they do because of the bait, because of what they're eating, because of the way the alewives act. They're still going to do it. I think they're going to become super, super, super fickle and much, much, much harder to catch.
Right.
That being said, it brings the other population of fish, which is a different type of fish altogether, in my opinion. If some's at largemouth,
Right.
for instance, or whatever, or even the shallow smallmouth there, or whatever. You know, there's different fish in different areas of the lake that react differently and feed on different things. It'll bring those back into play more. That's
Right.
kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, the unpressured fish will be more easily caught and theoretically could get bigger because they're not getting pressured as bad.
So you think the live scope guys will be all bald headed in about 3 to 5 years? All their hair's gonna fall out.
No, I'm not gonna say
Too
that.
so much stress.
If they don't wear a hat, they'll get sunburnt for sure from looking down and the sun being
Yeah.
on top of their head.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, so it's interesting. You know, Brian came in. I came in kind of late, and we were like,
You know what they could do? Maybe they could get some of those like fancy technology glasses that like Bluetooth to the graph, where you could see the graph through your sunglasses. That way, you could turn around and look at the camera and talk, and you'd
Yeah.
actually be seeing what's on the graph.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that technology can improve in order to make it more engaging.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen a comment about deer hunting, Chris. I can't.
Yeah,
man, I'm not
y'all
allowed
stop
to.
that. He's got a week left. Just don't get him going yet.
4 days. Season starts Saturday.
4 days. Okay, he's got 4 days. This is the last show we get without him talking about deer hunting.
No. I'm gonna not do it. I'm not gonna do it.
I don't believe that for 1 second.
I'm gonna
I don't
refrain.
expect that. I mean, I don't want. I want to hear about you killing a big deer.
You do or don't?
I do.
Oh, well, I always send you a picture of
I
calling
know.
or something.
That's what I'm saying. But I mean,
They don't all wanna hear about it.
I'm sure the fellow listeners want to hear the story too.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
well,
a big
well,
accomplishment.
if
That'd
we-
be like catching a 10-pounder. Like if I caught a 10-pounder, I'm gonna get on the show and talk about it.
That's right. Dang right.
I want to talk about it.
Dang right. Okay, here's a good question. Let's answer some questions right now. So I'm going to try to address as many questions. We got about 15, 20 minutes. Let's address some questions, and it can be about, you know, forward-facing sonar, whatever y'all want to talk about. But Mike Jones said, you guys think big bass are more luck than skill when ledge fishing or fishing a school of bass? So ledge fishing and fishing schooling bass, to me, are two
I'm
different
still
things.
going skill.
Okay, so for ledge fishing, I'm going to say more skills involved. For schooling bass, I'm going to say there's more luck involved. When I say schooling, like cracking
surface
the- Yeah,
breaking.
and here's why.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I caught big bass of the event at Lake
I got
Murray.
the bug.
You got
Sorry,
him? Thank
got it.
goodness. You deafened everybody in the process. I caught big bass at the Lake Murray Elite Tournament this year. It was a 7-11. I caught it on a herring point, you know, like everybody else did. And there were like 50 fish on this point blowing up.
Right.
I throw this big walking bait up there. A 2-pounder knocks it out of the water. A 2.5 jumps over it, and a 7-11 eats it.
Yeah, so he's not talking about school bass. He said he's just talking about a school of bass on a ledge.
Okay, well, disregard everything I just said. Ledge bass.
Yeah,
So,
ledge bass.
Yeah.
I'm saying skill, and I say that because you constantly see the same guys dominate ledge fishing tournaments, and they do it on different spots every time. Like you look at the history of ledge fishing back when Kevin was dominating on Kentucky Lake, winning all those events. Like he was always somewhere different. So he was just consistently. I mean, who else comes to mind? Jason Lambert, Jacob Wheeler's a great ledge fisherman. I mean, those guys consistently catch bigger fish all the time on ledges, and I think they figured out how to generate that bigger bite. There's definitely a way to generate that bigger bite, and how bigger fish set up in a school. Like, you might have a school of 100 fish, and, you know, most of them be 3 to 4 pounders, but, you know, there'll be one sweet spot on that ledge where they're all 5 to 6 pounders or something like that. I don't know. I've not figured it out, but obviously some guys have.
Sorry, Mr. Jones, I misinterpreted the question. The rotation of baits is always a big part of the equation too. One thing I learned from watching Mark Rose and some of the legendary ledge fishermen over the years is the rotation of baits and how to trigger the bigger fish to bite too. Now you can actually just look at them and tell which ones are bigger.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And watch how they react. So you really know it makes the rotation of baits and what you pick up a little bit easier now.
My train of thought was always throw the biggest thing I had first.
I agree with that 100%.
That was my approach. Like, if there's a big one there, while I've still got the element of surprise and haven't thrown, I want to throw the biggest thing I've got. See if I can catch a big one.
And you'd be surprised how many times a big bait can just fire them up, and then you can still catch them.
Yeah, you fire an 8-inch swim bait out there, and you'll feel like little smaller fish pecking at it, and then all of a sudden it'll lock up, and you catch a 6-7 pounder.
Yep. Just for the record, I'm not talking about deer hunting, but some of the viewers are.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Buddy Black's already chimed in. Ryan Sowers is getting a pool started on whether I shoot a good one this weekend or not.
What's the odds? What's your odds? Give us some odds. We can't start a betting pool if we don't get odds.
This is all I'm going to say about bow season. It happens every year. I've had 5 or 6 shooters on camera for the past 2 months.
Yeah.
Right. And then September gets here. You have a few of them start shedding their velvet, and then they become inconsistent, and they start popping up in different places. So I don't ever like my odds of killing one once bow season comes.
So if we were to bet on it, what kind of odds would we have?
Well, I'm going to be hunting a stand where I know that there's 3 shooters coming to. Yeah. But they're more inconsistent now. They're not, 50%.
50%?
Yep.
All right.
50%.
50-50.
50-50. But then, I'm bow hunting too, so there's a lot of variables. Still got to make it count. Even if one comes in, doesn't mean he's walking dead.
That's true.
Been there, done that before. All right. I had some questions, but my feed's jumping down real quick. Yeah, well, I hope not.
I seen a comment
the entire front
a while back about
LED
somebody
screens.
made about the Del Hollow event and the cell service. So I know the MLF, they send a crew out to all the lakes to survey them before we go fish them to make sure we're going to have good coverage. And I'm sure they've done that at Del Hollow, and the coverage has got to be pretty good or we wouldn't be going there, because they do that for every event, because we actually have a rule that says we can't be out of cell coverage for more than 15 minutes at a time. So if you get in an area of the lake where you don't have signal, you can fish for 15 minutes.
What?
Yep.
Are you serious?
We've got a rule that that's
it's made for TV, so that's not a bad rule.
It's made for TV, and with the live score tracker, that's the way they had to implement this rule. So you've got
interesting. I didn't know that.
You've got 15 minutes. If you get in an area and your official says, Brian, we don't have any service from, you have 15 minutes from now, I'll start the clock, and then you have to stop fishing and return to service. And then after you stop fishing, and say you may have service a mile away, you can sit down, run a mile away, it'll ping once, you'll get service, the score tracker update, and then you can come back over there and fish for 15 minutes.
That would drive me crazy.
You just can't be out of service for more than 15
So
minutes.
is that new? Is that a new rule?
No, that's always been there.
Has that ever happened to you?
The only instant, it's never happened to me. The only time I've ever seen it happen was, I think it was 2021 at the event at Rayburn that Ott Defoe won. He was way up the river, and he was fishing in a place that had kind of spotty service. And it was actually funny. I talked to Ott after the event. He ended up winning the event up there. But the place he was fishing, like, he would go without service, and then he said, I might troll 20 feet, and then I would get service, and I could troll back over to where I was catching them. So I think it's a great idea, because it lets you, when you have a live camera, you're going to have that coverage, and your score tracker's still going to be there, and people are going to be able to know how things stand. But
Mr. Jones, he said, that's a stupid rule. All right, so
I'll say this: for
in my
fishing
mind,
Del Hollow last year in the Toyota, there's going to be a lot of people running back and forth to get cell service.
you think?
well,
so
it was
so
awful,
that's
man.
one thing. What I was going to get at next is we actually have these service boosters on our boats.
I was going to say, I bet they're countering this somehow.
Right. Yes, they are. So we have a signal booster that every boat puts on the. That's why if you see any of the Bass Pro guys' boats, you'll see a bracket on their back deck, and they actually have a little box. It's probably 12 by 12 box that's actually a signal booster for whatever service they use. I think they use all of them, but it will boost that signal, and we can get service where your cell phone will not get service.
That's so funny because I could only imagine when y'all were sitting in there and they told y'all that rule, and then fishermen were looking at each other going, huh?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean we
Yeah.
got to move and check in and then come back?
Like you can be, like we'll be somewhere fishing and we'll have we'll go on our break between the periods, 15-minute break or whatnot, and I'll sit down and I'll get my phone to call Allie or something like that, and it'll say no service, and I'll hook it to Wi-Fi on the signal booster and call her.
Yeah, that's
Like they've got it figured out where
they were
I'm not
ready.
going to say it doesn't come into play. There's very rare for an instance to come into play like that.
That's good. That makes me feel better. It makes me feel
Yeah.
better. Yeah, they're still talking about. First of all, y'all, as far as deer hunting is concerned, I live in North Carolina. Okay, like, I mean, a big deer here is like 125. Like that's a bit like it's way above average deer. Unless you're in the central part of the state, in a handful of counties, there's more better deer killed down there. But in the western part of the state, like if you kill one in the 120s, like you've done something.
Yeah.
Like you've done. Brian knows. Like he's hunted around here his whole
Yeah.
life too. Ryan, a shooter around here, like a shooter buck. Sorry,
It's a 5-year-old deer. Doesn't matter how big he is.
yeah, I mean it's like if he's 4+ years old around here, he's done something special to get that age
he's
around here.
he is
and that's kind of my threshold.
Oh,
Is for a
Em
4-year-old
Jones
or
said we
better.
need to get that Starstream internet from Elon Musk. Dude, that stuff's legit.
So is it live now? Is it? Can you
I
do
was
it
60 miles out in the Atlantic Ocean talking to my wife on the phone because
through Starstream?
the boat I was on had Starlink.
So you can get Starlink now.
Oh, yeah.
So you can get. Can we do? But it's
Yeah.
only certain regions that are. It's available. It's not
Yeah.
available everywhere yet, right?
Right. It's not available everywhere, but you can. There's certain regions, and so my buddy got it on his sport fisher, and like we're 60 miles out. in
We
the
might
ocean.
change everything. We might change our home internet. We're getting ready to ditch Dish Network because my wife's been without ABC for over a year now. And
Yeah.
then now I think Spectrum kicked ABC to the curb right before
Yeah, I
college
see.
football season started. I'm like, what are y'all doing? I would love to see how many customers they lost in the past like 48 hours.
Another one.
Well, I mean, YouTube TV, it seems to be where it's at. So
That Verizon internet, that stuff's good at the house.
we got
dude.
T-Mobile internet, and it's not bad.
Yeah,
It's not
I mean,
bad.
it's that Verizon, and it's cheap.
Oh,
It's
buddy
fast.
said it's a huge wait list to get on for the Starlink.
Oh,
That's
is it?
interesting.
Gotcha.
Drunkwood, there's not a lot that's been said lately about that. You
Yeah,
know,
I hadn't heard nothing
the
about it.
Master Cup Series, that's that team deal that supposedly supposed to be taking place in the next month or two. I don't know anything else about it. I've heard some details about it like a month or two ago. But other than that, it kind of just
Yeah, I
faded
don't-
out a little bit. But
Chris McDonald says he likes cow horns.
Calhoun, 11 points. That's Carolina 11 point right
Yeah.
there.
I've got a superb example of a cow horn.
You got a big cow horn.
I mean, he's a good. He's got to be 10, 11 inches tall. It's a big one.
Oh, good. And, yeah. So yeah, apparently that's the story. Is Disney and Spectrum battling, and then I don't know what happened with Dish and ABC, but we hadn't had ABC
Yeah.
on our Dish network deal for.
We got rid of DirecTV
Long
2
time.
years ago, and we just stream everything now. And it's,
Yeah.
DirecTV is battling Fox now.
yeah.
I think.
I know
Yeah,
it's
well,
saving me about $200 a month. for
Well,
getting rid of
YouTube
that.
TV, it's like $70 a month or something, and you pretty much get anything you want.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think Steve said ESPN is circling the drain. I think so. Fred Ashcraft said good backstrap on them cow horns. I guess he's talking about them cow horns. That's right.
They are.
They tickle
They
when they're
are.
young. Oh yeah, big BFL on Norman coming up in a few weeks, isn't there?
Oh, when is it? I might just fish it.
Is it 2 weeks? Tyler, you fishing it?
No, I will be captaining the high school team.
Good
on
for you.
High Rock.
Good for you.
They needed a fill-in.
What's the dates
so
on it?
That's where I'll be.
Well, good. So that's the 20-something of September?
23rd.
I
23rd.
can't do that.
Why? Where are you going to be?
I gotta go to Minnesota
Okay.
with Blackfish to film some stuff.
Got you. That's the 2
And
day.
I think Allie's gonna be out of town
Yeah,
too.
Super's a 2.
That'll be the 2 day super
My
tournament, right?
event's the next week at Hartwell.
Got you. Got you.
I love fall fishing.
All right, I love fall hunting. Obviously, everybody knows that. I do. Man, I looked at the forecast, and it's supposed to be like 93 here tomorrow. It was like 91 today.
Oh, it's hot
But
today.
Saturday, it's supposed to be 82. And next week, it's going to drop down in the upper 70s for a couple days. So, yeah, that's Ryan, I got to stop, dude. I've been talking hunting too much. We'll talk. I could talk hours about bows and arrows and grains and broadheads. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to stay away from it. What else you got to add, Brian?
I think it's been a good show.
Yeah.
I think it has. I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to the rest of the year is with the minimal traveling, hopefully we're going to be able to do a lot of shows between now and Christmas.
Okay.
That's what I'm looking for. I feel like
Well, that's the plan, but you
yeah.
just told me a couple dates that you're already going to be out of town.
Yeah, but I'm only be gone for a couple days, like
Okay.
weekends and stuff like that. So I
You're,
should be
you're
here.
gone next week, I know. Next Tuesday. Possibly, maybe. Sort
Yeah,
of.
next Tuesday. I hope I'm not here.
Yeah. Okay.
Could be. If I'm
Uh,
here, it means I did not catch any bass.
Yeah. Yeah. J-Man, you're right. Can't get better with the forward-facing sonar when you're hunting, but hunting's more fun than
Yeah,
using
he can.
forward-facing
He can
sonar.
watch YouTube videos.
Yeah, that's right.
You can watch YouTube videos. Everybody.
Oh, I can watch like
Catching 'em.
the 17 hours of bass live with forward-facing sonar catches. It's all archived on YouTube, so I can go back and watch that. Put my
Yes,
little
there you
earpiece
go.
in.
I got a question.
What's up, Tyler?
So everybody's talking about the viewership going down because of forward-facing sonar.
Well, that's just one of the debates. Yeah, one of the topics.
So could this lead to more chase boats for each organization, moving cameramen around to different guys who are catching them not utilizing forward-facing sonar?
Well, you had a hard time finding those guys in the last three tournaments we finished.
I think if they start seeing numbers drop, like with viewership,
They're gonna have to get creative.
I think they'll get creative. So I know Bass Pro Tour, they utilize 10 cameras each day, and I think you would see an instance where, yeah, they would have, cameras on guys at the top, and then, they're going to probably set it up where they've got 2 or 3 cameras, like, they can call up the night before and be like, hey, so-and-so, what are you going to be doing? Are you going to be fishing shallow, covering water tomorrow? And if they say, yeah, they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to put a camera with you just to get some diversity in the field.
Yeah, I could see something like that happening. I mean, if you always throw a couple, I mean, there's certain guys you could always throw a camera, but you can't do that either. Like, you can't always give the same guys
You gotta
coverage.
diversify.
But
Yeah.
like a John Cox, for instance, is going to be pretty entertaining at every tournament because he's
Yeah,
going
but
to be
they can
fishing
call
shallow.
up anglers. Like,
Yeah.
Like,
Yep, for
you
sure. So to get those extra boats out there and to get the camera guys moved around a little bit, I don't think. I mean, it's not a bad idea. You're going to have to get creative. Obviously, Bass going to have to, fork out a little bit of extra money, but I think that's worth it for sure. If it ups your viewership, that equals dollars too, right? So, I don't have the numbers on the tournaments exactly. I mean, and I don't know when you pull television numbers and live coverage numbers
Right.
if they're even accurate, right?
Right,
Like
yeah.
none of us know that. Like, we get these numbers, and I swear it doesn't matter what organization I've ever fished, and Brian can vouch for this too. When I get an update from the organization about the last tournament or the tournament before last, the tournament last year, whatever it was, I've never got one that said our numbers were down.
no.
Have you ever got one that said that, Brian?
In the history of
In the-
in the history of bass fishing, I've never heard them say we lost viewers this week.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it's
because our
always-
payouts seem to go down, but the viewership always seems
Always
to go
goes up. It always goes up.
It's the weirdest thing.
That
man.
is
It's the
amazing. It
weirdest
is
thing.
amazing.
All right, so we started a few minutes early. I think we're going to wrap it up a few minutes early tonight. We do have a trivia question for our Bait Fuel sponsored giveaway, which is going to be some bait fuel hat, bait
Yep.
fuel shirt, a nice little bait fuel package that our friends over at American Bait Works has put together for us. Miss Valerie, actually.
Yes.
Miss Valerie. Well, give credit
And
where
I
credit's
have no
due.
idea what the question is, nor do I know the answer. So,
It's pretty easy because I know how you always like to get out of here really quick at the end of the show. So I'm gonna.
I still don't know the answer, so I'm not going to be able to call it.
Yeah,
if I see
actually, you do know the answer. You probably know the answer.
it. Maybe, possibly.
You probably know the answer. All right, so trivia question. There's a whole bunch of questions on here. I feel
I
like
know,
we should
it's
address
awesome.
one or two more.
All right,
questions.
let's catch one more.
All right,
Catch us one.
Grab a question.
Grab a question. I'm looking.
That's true, Ryan. I do love YouTube videos of guys bow hunting. It's like, so here's my YouTube
Did you
addiction.
pick a hunting question?
No, it's not. It's not.
It's a
hunting question.
statement.
It's not a hunt. It was a statement. I'm
Okay,
just addressing
I'll
a statement.
allow it.
YouTube's great because when like January rolls around, like I watch fishing videos.
Yeah.
When the end of March rolls around, I watch turkey hunting videos. When this week rolls around, it ain't nothing but like big velvet Kentucky deer dropping in their tracks, bow hunt.
See, I can't watch a hunting video at all, period.
Even right before hunting season starts.
Even right before hunting season.
Why?
Because I
'Cause you
can't
like
kill
hunting?
that deer.
Well,
But it's impossible.
well, you watch fishing videos and you're not catching that
But I
fish.
can catch that fish because people are turning them loose, and if I go to that lake, it's possible I could catch that fish.
So if
But if I'm watching a YouTube video of you shooting a 150-inch buck, I can't kill that deer, so it don't interest me. I mean, I don't know if I'm wrong with that thought process,
I don't
but
know how to argue that. I don't know how to argue
you
that.
can argue. You can argue that.
That's the only reasoning I've ever heard that I was like, I don't really know what to say. I don't have a rebuttal for that. I
Just
don't
watch people post pictures. I don't
Interesting.
watch deer hunting.
Yeah, like I look at
Like
pictures,
Canterbury's
but I don't want to
picture.
watch a 30-minute show on somebody whispering in the woods and shooting a deer that I can't shoot.
I do like watching videos more on like property management and like
Yeah, now something like that would
how to
interest me.
plan
Yeah.
and things like that.
That
too,
would
so.
interest me.
And I really enjoy watching the hunt in public. They're probably my favorite because all they do is travel all around the country and hunt public land.
Yeah,
and
now
it's
something
cool.
like that would
it's
be
cool. And because most of the animal, I mean, they just shoot turkeys a lot.
Yeah.
And then most of the deer they shoot are deer that equivalent to kind of what you and I hunt most of the time.
Right.
So
It's kind of like I liken it to Bill Dance fishing the private ponds. Like I don't like watching somebody
Yeah.
fish a private pond because
Yeah.
I can't do that. It doesn't relate to me.
Yeah, I agree. I can't watch high fence
Okay.
hunting.
Yeah,
I will not watch high fence hunting.
Same deal.
Do what?
I said you can now.
What?
Didn't Bill Dance open up his public ponds?
Well, if he
his private
He
pond?
may have.
Oh, if he opened it up, then it probably ain't no good anymore.
I think you gotta like pay to go. Like,
Oh, I'm
it's like
sure.
a
I'm sure he's not
come
just letting
visit and
people
all
come
that,
in.
But I think
Yeah.
read somewhere that he opened them up.
Maybe he did. I didn't know that. I'll have to look
He
into that.
should. I mean, it'd be a great revenue stream.
Yeah. All right, trivia question time. Appreciate everybody joining in. I know we had over, 150, 160
Yeah, we
viewers
had
tonight.
150 something one time. I know.
And obviously, y'all know, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel because once we switched to YouTube Live, knock on wood, we hadn't had very many hiccups. Usually didn't have anything to do with the YouTube platform. It had to do with our equipment. So kudos to everybody for following us over to YouTube. And, we still go to all the podcast platforms, iTunes and Spotify, etc. So y'all check us out over there too. But appreciate y'all watching. Trivia question time. So this is for the Bait Fuel gift pack giveaway tonight.
And whoever wins tonight, make sure you DM us your address and your shirt size.
Yeah, shirt size included. Well,
Yep.
and when he says DM, send us a message on our Facebook page, the Let's Talk Fish Facebook page, with your shipping information and the size shirt
Oh, yeah,
you wear.
forget we're not on Instagram.
Well, we are, but Jeff's in charge of that, so that means the messages never get checked there.
Okay.
I'm in charge of Facebook, so I can check the messages
Hey,
there.
perfect. I'm in charge of nothing.
Exactly. I wouldn't have that any other way.
Me either. Me either.
All right, here we go. I recently, on my trip to New York during practice for the St. Lawrence event, caught my personal best smallmouth. I want to know in pounds and ounces how much it weighed.
Okay, I don't know the answer.
You don't know the answer to that. Well, I'll
I
let
think
you-
I do.
I'll
I
let you
remember
know in a
seeing
minute.
it. I remember seeing it, but I think I know, but I'm not
I seen it,
100%.
but I don't know.
I need to know. Oh, already got it. First guy.
That's what I was thinking.
John Williams.
Congratulations.
I think John is a new winner too. I don't recognize
Yeah,
the name.
I
as
mean,
far as
nailed
trivia
it.
winners.
First comment.
So it was 7 pounds 1 ounce. Now you remember. When you saw
That's
it.
what I thought it was, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, 7 pounds 1 ounce is the correct answer.
That's awesome.
John Williams.
That's a big smallmouth.
Yeah, it was funny because I'd never caught. I think I told you this. I'd never caught a 6 pounder.
Yeah.
So I caught 5.15s and 4. Like I'm
5.14.
like when I say I'm not the guy who catches a 5.14 and say I caught a 6 pounder.
Yeah, like it's a 5.14.
It's a 5.14.
Yeah.
And I weighed it, and I never caught a 6 even. So I just figured, why catch a 6 when you catch a 7?
Might
So I
as
just
well.
went ahead and caught a 7. But yeah, it was 7 pounds 1 ounce. It was in practice. It was actually shallow too.
Really?
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it come up behind my bait, and
He was like, I'm catching that.
oh
Jake.
yeah. I thought it was like a 5 pounder.
Yeah.
And I saw it come up behind my bait, and it was on a little fly, and I killed it, and when the fly went down, he just went, and I didn't see him eat it, but I saw him turn sideways, and I'm like, oh, he got it. And dude, it was, you know how
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it was. And that fish, a lot of those great big ones don't fight
No.
as hard. This son of a gun did.
He did.
Yes.
I wonder if it's shallow fish.
Maybe so.
The deep fish, they seem like they get to, it's like a grouper when you catch a grouper in 200 feet of water and he comes up. Once he blows his air out, he's just laying there.
Yeah. They do that a lot. Champlain, them suckers would come up faster than any fish I've ever seen in my life. Like when you hook one out there in 35, it's like shoo,
Yeah, straight
straight
to the
up.
surface. Yeah.
Ontario's some will dig, some will jump, but you get a good mix out there. But Champlain, it's like
But I don't think those Ontario fish are constantly coming to the surface and down like the Champlain fish.
that's true. That's
like
exactly.
they're feeding on the bottom.
They're eating gobies.
Yeah, they're
off
feeding
a
on the
rock out
bottom,
there. Yeah,
and the Champlain fish are
alewife
going
fish. Yep.
all day.
It's funny you said that because like I caught a lot of fish on Champlain over 35 and 40 foot of water. Some down closer to the bottom, some tighter to the top.
Yeah.
Didn't have to fizz those fish.
Right.
Those fish are constantly doing this.
Right.
All the Ontario fish I had to fizz.
Yeah.
Right. All of them. Congratulations, John. John Williams, you are the champion of the trivia tonight. 7 pounds 1 ounce was the correct answer. So send us a message, John, to our Facebook page with your shipping information and your shirt size, and we'll get that over to Miss Valerie for your bait fuel giveaway.
She'll get you a nice bait fuel package sent out.
Yep. All right. Anybody? Are we missing anything? What are we missing, Brian?
I don't think so. The only thing I think we're missing is Ryan said something about you staying an extra 20 minutes and doing a Let's Talk Hunting show, and like, I'll go to the house.
I got supper to eat. I'm hungry. A hunting trivia. We could do a hunting trivia question
my
just to
God.
mix it up sometime.
No.
Never mind. See, Ryan, you get me in all kinds of trouble here. All right, y'all. Oh, sorry, Chris. He said he knew the answer and his phone wouldn't post it quick enough. Well, hopefully next time. We got some really good giveaways coming up. We got a
Yes,
really
we
good
do.
Pulse Fish Lures giveaway coming up. We still got
Have a couple Costa
Costa,
giveaways.
$300 Costa giveaways that you'll see throughout the fall. So as soon as we get back in studio, we promise we got some goodies to give away. But yeah, appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. And Brian, you want to sign us off?
Yeah, thank you guys. We'll try to be here next week. We're going to get back on it hard this fall and try to get in a lot of shows. I know we had very conflicting schedules most of the spring and early summer, but if we can't go fishing, what are we going to do, Matt?
Sit right here on Tuesdays at 7 and talk fish.